Alright, welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. My name is Tyler. I am your host. As you can see, we're still down at Club 831. This will actually be the last episode of the night, so the next couple episodes I'll actually change my clothes. I think I've done like 5 where I'm in the same outfit. So anyway, on today's episode, we're going to talk with Abby here, who is going to share with us her experience in her recovery journey. So with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce Abby. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, I'm Abby. Oh boy. I don't even know where to start. I come from a background of my dad's a pastor, so I did a lot of stuff in the biblical world. And when I was a kid in high school, I wrote this paper, and they were like a bonus points in my health class. And they were all like, my paper was about all the drugs known to man, what their names were, what they did, and I loved that paper. It was probably one of my favorite ones I've ever done. And I was raised in a biblical background, so drugs were bad. And then I moved to Texas when I was 18, and that's when I discovered a whole different world. It was 2015, not 2018. So that's when I discovered alcohol.
So your drug use doesn't start
Until
until
2018. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
But to me, like, alcohol is still very much a substance.
100%.
So if it alters the brain cells, it's a substance. And you'll find, like, through most of my story, like, alcohol was something that I've always really struggled with. Even when my best friend passed away in 2019, I had 2 of my kids after that. And I stopped, but I still continued, like, drinking alcohol, because that was something that would numb my pain. Because
So hold on, you're jumping way ahead
I
of me.
did. That's what I do. I'm so sorry.
So
Just jump around. I'm so sorry.
alright, so when you went to Texas,
Yes.
right, you found alcohol, but you found other drugs too.
Yes, I did.
Right? Like, because you kind of bypassed all that. I was like, yeah, I stopped doing everything. But drinking, right? So you were doing like hard drugs as well too?
Yes. So I started. MDMA was my favorite. That's when I found out what that was, and
So
I said,
you're a rave
"Ooh,
kid.
I am a rave kid. Yeah.
Okay.
I did a lot of raves when I lived down there, and I said, I like this, because I suffer from a lot of. I have really bad post-traumatic stress, and so when I did Molly, it all went away. I was happy, and that was not something I was used to.
And coming from a biblical background there, you saw God.
I did, yeah. So I was, I have a lot of physical trauma with my parents. So I always struggled with, well, if my parents were Christians, why did God let that happen? And so that's why I started Molly and drugs. Well, Molly and alcohol, and I was just like, wow, this is a great combination. We love this. And I saw some really horrific stuff when I lived there. I came up from Texas to visit my family in during Thanksgiving. I was pregnant with my oldest kid. And the guy that I was with was like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to deal with you. And being pregnant, and I was 8 months pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do I pick up from that? And going from being my own person to my parents and controlling aspect, I could not do anything. So I went to friends' houses and was put into some really shady situations because I would do just about anything to get my hands on it. And at that point, I was just doing Molly. I wasn't doing anything else. And I had to hide my use from my parents, which is kind of difficult whenever you come home and they go, Abby, why are you so excited? Like, well, I'm just, I just didn't sleep well that night. I'm just tired. And then I moved out of my parents' house because I didn't want to deal with that anymore. I wanted to be my own person.
How old are you at this time?
I was 20, almost 21.
Okay.
I had my kid.
So it's fair to say you have controlling parents too,
Yes.
right? Because, like, from what I'm hearing, right, there's a lot of physical, mental, and emotional abuse in here from your parents.
Yep.
And you're kind of still, like, in that process at this time,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I'm adopted as well, so dealing with that adoption and then dealing with and not have any communication with my biological family and having my parents tell me all the time that, like, my bio family was bad and that all of these really made up stories, as I'm now finding out, made up stories from my adopted parents, and having to, like, wade through where did they lie to me, where did they tell me the truth. It hurt dealing with parents who couldn't look at you and tell you the truth and couldn't actually live like an actual truth and make sure that you feel like an adult, because to them I'm still very much a child. To them I'm still the 17-year-old girl who left the house. To them I've been about sober for about 2 years and they just they don't see that. I would love for them to see that. I would love for them to understand, like, hey, I made that journey, but they don't care. They don't see that.
Well, tell me about that journey, right? So there was that point where, so you've been sober now for 2 years. So 2 years ago was that moment where you said, "Ah, fuck, I gotta change this," right? So,
Yeah.
like, what was that? Tell me that moment where you were like, "Man, this has got to be different."
So I love this because it's my favorite thing in the entire world. I had a foot injury. So funny how this came about. I got a foot injury from my work, and at this point I was heavy drinking. At this point, I was going through like bottles of alcohol a day. It was really bad. I completely lost who I was. When I had my foot injury, I met somebody outside on the bus station. And he just talked to me and he was like, hey, what's up? Your foot, I broke my foot a couple years ago. And we just like kind of chatted. And then he was just like, hey, I'm in a recovery house. You should come, just hang out with me, kind of see that whole process. So I went to one of the recovery houses and I was like, huh. And then the next day, happened to be a Sunday, and he's like, hey, do you want to go to an AA meeting? And when I was pregnant with my oldest, somebody suggested, hey, Abby, you should go to AA. And I'm like, no, I don't have a problem. I'm not an alcoholic. Drinking 4 bottles of alcohol a day totally is not an alcoholic. And I said, no. And then one day I kind of just realized, and I was like, yeah, I'll go to this AA meeting. I'll say to myself, I have a problem. And that's where it started. I was with somebody who enabled my addiction, and that was one day I realized it as I was going to AA meetings, and I was in there for about 3 months into my AA, like, dealing with that, and I looked at him and I said, hey, I'm trying to get sober. Will you get sober with me? And he said, no. Which really broke my heart, because I had been with him probably about 3 years at this point. 3.5.
And this is different from the guy that picked you up with the broken foot.
Yep. So the guy with who picked me up with the
Losing
broken foot
track.
is just kind of like a really good friend of mine.
Okay.
He has since.
I thought you were about to be like, this is the guy that I'm with, and like we broke foots together, and like we're getting married, and like that's what it sounded like there for a minute. Like,
No, I actually lost contact with him for a minute or two because he relapsed and he just, it's kind of sometimes what happens. I kind of just, for my own sake, for my own sobriety, I can't be around somebody like that. And that's why actually why
Sure.
I left mine, because I'm like, if you can't get sober with me, then as wild as it is, like you don't love me enough to do that with me. Because I'm trying to help you, but you are just want to stay, and you're gonna make me fall.
so ultimately, you knew, like, I've got to change, right? And where are your kids at this time?
They're with my family.
Okay,
with my
so they're not
parents.
living with you at this time when you're making this decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a really bad court battle. So a couple of months before I got sober, we entered a really bad court battle, really ugly one, with my family, and they used my drug use against me. And I was like, wow, I'm a really crappy mom, because I was doing drugs not near my children. My children never saw that, but I was still using. And I was still heavily drinking at that time. Because not only was I doing MDMA, I was also doing, like, taking shrooms at the same time. Because.
So you're in a whole nother world while the kids are like coloring. You're
Yes.
seeing the
Me
colors.
too, I'm coloring too. Mom's coloring. Just a whole different world. Because my second born was born in 2018. So from 17 to 18, 2017 to 18, I was introduced to mushrooms. And blew my mind. I have seen things about myself that I never thought was even there. And that's why I kind of paired all three of those together. Because I was like, oh, yeah, I can discover who I am. And then I'm like, Abby, just go to therapy. Like, that's the normal version of how to find out who you are, is to work through that the legal way. And so when I had my youngest, I just kept going. I didn't stop. And my parents saw that, and they used it 120%. And it was one of the hardest things I have ever gone through, was people who said, hey, I love you, hey, like, you're my kid, I chose you, and then to take that away from me and go, it's okay, Abby, we still love you, right after that battle was over. It plummeted. I plummeted. And I couldn't stop. It was a downward spiral after that. And I don't want to sound super cheesy and be like, hey, one day, I just kind of like woke up. I was just like, I should, but divine intervention, almost, because I fought God hand and tooth and nail. I don't know. I'm real bad at expressions. But I fought him all the time. God knew all along what I needed to have done, and I just kept running. And once you stop fighting him, once you stop fighting what he wanted me to do, and I finally stopped, everything kind of just fell into place. Everything kind of just was like crystal clear for me, and if I didn't go to that first AA meeting, as crazy as it seems, like, AA saved me.
I mean, it's not crazy to me.
It really did.
We have a whole channel dedicated to that. So.
I was really timid going to my meetings. It was really bad at first for me, because I suffer from, with PTSD, I suffer from really bad paranoia, and I'm like, oh my gosh, people are talking about me. And like, the town that we live in is really small, and so like, there's a large possibility of that happening. And that's why when I first entered, I was really, really just timid. I didn't really talk to anybody. I kind of just wanted to like feel it out. And there was actually a time that I stopped going, um, because some really, really serious stuff happened. Um, and I trusted the wrong people, and it really wounded me. And I said, well, if this person is going to, take advantage of me, then can I actually trust the people? So I took a really large step back. I was only going to like one meeting every 2 weeks instead of a meeting every week. And I got my own house, so I got sober long enough for me to actually have my own house, actually take care of my own house. Because leading up to that point, I had moved 2 times in the span of 5 months, because I went from a 2-person income to a 1-person income, and I had not gotten sober yet. And so trying to support a habit and rent at the same time just doesn't mesh very well.
No,
Um,
it doesn't.
it does not. But once I got sober and once I was able to get that way, I was like, wow, I can support my own self. This is what it feels like to be an adult. Adulthood kind of still sucks, but it's fine. We vibing. So when I got my own home, it was wild, because I was like, wow, I can support myself, and I'm not supporting myself with alcohol or shrooms at this point. Because I was able to stop taking Molly, but shrooms it's really hard to kick that. Because when you discover that something can aid you in experiencing why you have trauma and experiencing why you have, do the things that you do subconsciously. And, um, and I remember one time doing it, and I looked and I said to myself, why am I with, at this time it was my fiance, and I'm like, why am I with this man? Like, what possesses me for 4 years now to be with this man? And that's why, like, first of all, that's why I got sober, and second of all, that's another reason why I was like, I can't do this. Like, you can't support me. I would even take a stab in the dark and be like, you don't love me, and you can't, get sober with me. And after, I remember still being in AA, and he came over to my house just to get a bunch of stuff, and he left a whole empty, like 12-pack of beer on my kitchen counter. And I said, wow, what a guy. Like, what a guy. And so, yeah, I was beyond just aggravated. And, like, I was like, are you doing this on purpose? So I messaged him and I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I didn't mean to, I'll come get it. And I'm like, no, it's fine, like, I'll do it. Like, I'll throw it away, don't come to my house, don't even text me. And at that point, a couple months later, I had some really big problems with AA and some people in there, so I was scared.
Well, first off, like, I commend you for that, right? Because it's hard to set those boundaries and understand, like, I want to do better. Here's somebody that I've spent my life with for the past 4 years, and, like, you don't want to do better. I can't do this, right? Like, that's a huge step, right? Like, because, like, we talk about this all the time, is about boundaries and being able to say, like, toxic people and how to get away from them. And, like, you did it, right? Like, you said, like, you're fucking toxic for me, and, like, you gotta go or fix yourself. You don't want to fix it? Peace.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I can't sit here and be like, yeah, that's the last time I said, no. I spoke to him again a half 6 months before we officially broke up. Because spending 4 years with somebody, you get comfortable, and I got comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
And that was the person I knew, and I was so scared to leave him because I was like, what do I do? What do I do? My whole life is just whoop. 180. Really bad at math too. Like my whole world just got turned on its side. I don't know who I am. I don't know really what I like to do. I don't actually have a big functioning job. At this point I'm staying at jobs 3 months to 6 months. I don't know what I want to do in my life. And it just was like, too much. Too much was changing too fast. And then one day I got a really cool job and I really liked it, and I stayed there probably for about a year. I do two jobs, so I work a seasonal job. I work at Spirit Halloween every year for 3 years now. And then I worked at the hotel. I worked at a hotel when I was with him. But during the period of time that I wasn't, I got that job. And he hated it. Absolutely hated it. Because I worked like mid-shift. And he was like, Abby, I'll never be able to hang out with you. We'll never have time together. And I'm like, you were never in my life for the past 2 months. Like, why does this matter to you now? What are you doing? Why are you trying to come back to my life? And that's when God was like, Abby, you got sober. You got your own house. Like, let him go. Like, trust me, let him go. And funny thing is, whenever you still don't listen and you need a little bit bigger of a push, God sent probably one of my all-time favorite human beings to me. And my favorite thing about this person is he has the same birthday as my ex-boyfriend, or fiance. He has the same birthday, and he lived in the same town. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And he was the one who gave me the push, the final push, to be like, Abby, leave, go. And if it wasn't for him, I would probably have gone back into that world. And he has been one of the strongest individuals for me. Because, was it last year? I have had a couple moments of almost relapsing, but last year I came really, really close to it. And I was sitting, I got a hotel room, and I was sitting in a restaurant, but they put me in the bar to wait for my food. And at this time, I have been really far away from alcohol. I've not touched it, I thought I was real good. Thought I was like, alright, this is awesome. I sat there and I said, whoa. I looked, because my thing is rum and vodka. And the thing that was staring at me was vodka. And I said to myself, I need to leave. And I left. I didn't get my food, I'll tell you that. I left without my grilled cheese. But I knew that if I stayed and waited for my grilled cheese, I would have done something stupid. And I called my best friend and I was like, please help me. Please. I just need somebody to just sit there and listen to one of probably the most scariest moments of me getting sober was that experience. And in that moment, last year, I had lost my house to a court battle against my landlords. So it was scary. A lot of things were changing. Changing was really hard for me. You'll notice that this entire story is change is hard.
Yeah.
Change is terrifying. And I'm still really bad at change. I'm not gonna look at you and be like, I'm the best at it, because I don't do well. But I finally have set up a support system. So I live in a recovery house now. Because when I lost my house, I called somebody and I was like, listen, I do have a problem. I need somebody to hold me accountable. I said, I need to move. They said, do you have any openings? And he was like, yeah. He's like, you got money? I said, yep. And he goes, all right, here's a house. And I was like, yes. And again, if you remember what I said earlier, if you listen to like my higher power, if I listen to him, he will make every door open, every single one. And at that point, I had been listening for the most part for everything he had asked me to do. And so it was really a godsend for me to move into a sober living house. It's not for everybody, but it was definitely something that I needed to do to hold myself accountable.
Well, I mean, it's good that you recognize that, right?
Yes.
So it's good that, like, you recognize, like, shit, I'm on the brink of a relapse.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than, like, try to fix it, right, you did the right thing,
Yeah.
which was, I'm going to ask for help, right? So, like, that's, like, the most important thing out of this whole entire podcast is, like, understanding that, like, man, it doesn't matter if we put the drugs and alcohol down, like, we still have problems.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get through the problems is what we're trying to accomplish. And, like, that's it, right there,
You
right?
cannot do it alone.
It's just fucking ask.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, but, like, you did it. It's not
Just
that
ask.
scary, is it?
No, it's not. Not anymore. Once you ask for help, I cannot do it alone. There's a lot of people in my life now that I've gotten sober for 2 years. There's a lot of people who ask me and they're like, Abby, your kids. And I always tell them, as much as I would love to sit here and tell you that I would love to get custody, I got taken from my biological parents when I was 6. And I remember that. And I'm going to try not to cry. But I remember that. And I remember just the feeling of, I'm not good enough. And I've carried that for a very, very long time. And when I got adopted, and then my parents just started just mentally abusing and physically abusing me, and I'm like, I'm not good enough. Like, they would tell me after every single time they would hurt me, they would be like, we love you. We love you. And I'm like, so like my idea of love was so jaded. And you'll notice, like, I put myself, when I was in addiction, I put myself in really bad situations because the people that I were with told me that they loved me. And I'm like, okay, but, like, you love me, so, like, you wouldn't lead me astray, right? So this is a good thing. And so, going back to my kids, I would love to get full custody. I would love to have my kids. I would love to. But I realized that the pain that I went through, I do not want my kids to go through that. I just want them safe. I just want them loved. Because I would love someday to share them with that, like my story, and I just would love for them to understand, hey, Mom loves you. Mom will always love you. And they know who I am. My parents have told me before my custody battle, they told the court that they know who I am. They know my name. They see pictures. They know they know everything. My sister is still in contact with them. So they see pictures of me all the time. They know who I am, which is really comforting. But I've also come to the terms of I turned to substances to get away from my family. So to me, seeing my parents, speaking to my parents, makes me remember all of those times, and it terrifies me. So I had an experience to back this up it is not worth my sobriety to go see my parents again. That makes me feel like such a bad mom, if I'm being really honest. When I sit there and I think to myself, damn, I just want to see my kids. That's all I want. I just want to see them. I want them to know who I am. I want them to know that I ultimately got sober for them. I got sober for myself. Don't get me wrong, but I primarily got sober for them because they don't deserve that. They don't deserve a parent or parents who are in constant active addiction. They're older now. My oldest is turning 8 this year. Um, this is a very hard subject for me. So my
Okay.
oldest, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Keep going.
So my oldest is 8 this year, and so like I haven't seen him since he was like 3, and so dealing with that and knowing that like I messed that up. I'm still working through that. I am in constant therapy. That is something that I need to. And once I know that like I have worked through it enough, I think that I can go see my parents. But I know without a shadow of a doubt that if I go to them right now, there is a very large possibility that I will probably relapse. And that is just not. I need to build myself stronger. I need to make sure that I am the best mom for my kids.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily make you a bad mom, right? Because like I want you to understand that like that is a protective capacity, right? And I know people can disagree, but fuck them, right? Because like at the end of the day, like you're saying to yourself, like I'm not capable right now to be able to give this child the best version of me, or even to be able to give this child the concept of love. Because,
Right.
like you yourself have just indicated that you still struggle with understanding what love is.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, by the sounds of it, we could just beat you up and tell you I love you, and you're gonna be like, okay, it's great.
This is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, in all joking aside, like, you know what I mean? Like that's huge that
Yeah.
you do recognize that and you can understand that, because at the end of the day, sometimes we as individuals can make situations worse on a child by, if you were to go back into their life and then you get fucking taken out again because now you're in and out, and you're trying this, at least you have the mindset to say I'm not capable.
Mm-hmm.
So like when if I'm trying to become capable so I can go get you, but right now I'm not capable. So
Yeah.
I want you to like take pride in that. Like the fact that you're I wish a lot of people could say that, right? Because it takes a very big person to be able to say, I'm just not capable, right? Like
And
that's unselfish.
I wish that I could tell you that that is how I fall asleep at night, saying to myself, I'm a very unselfish mom. But I will tell you, and every time I tell people my story about my kids, I just think to myself, I feel off. What could I have done different? Not turn to substances. That's what I could have done. But what could I have done? And then I sat there, and after that battle, um, I was still with my ex-fiance, and I remember just crying, crying to him. And I'm like, I did this for him. I did this for them. I did this because I know that my children deserve better. They're clothed, they're warm, they have a really good education, and that's all that mattered to me. And I know because I have a really good relationship now with my biological dad, um, real well. He came to my work a couple days ago and we chatted for like a half an hour. If you told little 6-year-old Abby that that was gonna happen, I would have been like, "What? You're crazy." Um, but I love my dad. I love my biological dad. He's the only parent I've ever had that I know 100% when he tells me that he loves me, I know he does. Because my higher power has made me understand that what my adopted parents told me about my dad wasn't actually my biological father. It's somebody else in the family. And so I remember when I first met my biological dad, I said, listen, I need you to break this down for me. I need you to explain what the heck is going on. And he told me point A to point B, and that is the only reason why I have such a good relationship with him. So And that's what I want with my kids. I want them to know, hey, Mom got sober for you. It was a real hard thing to do, but Mom did it just for you. My youngest son's dad is still in active addiction. He has not had any communication with my youngest since my youngest was like 4 months old. And that was my own choosing. My oldest son's dad has not had any communication since I was 8 months pregnant, and that was not my choosing. But with my youngest, I was like, I don't want you around him. You do not deserve to be around him. Because my kids do not need to see that. They already saw it enough with me. They do not need to see that with anybody else. My adopted parents are... My adopted dad doesn't even drink. They're very against alcohol. They're very against anything substance. So I know that my children are safe. I know that they're not growing up around that. And in time, I know that my kids will eventually come to me. And they'll ask. And I would love to tell them. Because every kid deserves that. Every kid deserves to know why your parents are different. Like, why wasn't I there with you? In time, they deserve to know.
You'll get there.
I miss them.
You'll get that one day.
I hope. I saw them with my adopted dad last year before that, at a distance. I saw them and I cried. Because I don't get pictures. I don't see them. My sister accidentally posted a picture on her Facebook one time, and I saw them, and I was like, my boy! Sorry, Harry Potter reference, my bad. But I was just so excited because I was like, oh, look at my children. Like, they're doing so well. And as a mom, that is all I wished for, is to know, again, that they're safe. And they don't have to worry about, where is mom? Where is mom? Where's dad? You know, what are they doing? You know, they don't have to involve themselves in that. And, like, to circle back to me in recovery, like my recovery house, I could have my kids there, but I'm trying to fix myself. And it's really hard to work on yourself and have, like, dealing with two tiny humans. And so I know that I can't be the best version of myself for them if I can't work on myself. And that's all a lot of recovery is working on yourself. I recently moved, so I moved 4 times in 1 year. That was really hard. That was hard. Definitely was not something I ever want to experience ever again. But it just moved into a new house. January 1st. Start of the new year, new house, new me. And before I moved in, that old house that I was living in was like, everybody has to go to meetings. And at this point, I was maybe hitting 1-2 meetings, not very much, maybe 1-2 meetings every month, every couple months, but I was still, there's a very big difference between, abstinent, and, what is the other one? Help me up here. Working on your sobriety, being sober, and abstinent. There's a very big difference between that. And what I was being was absent. Like, I was doing it myself. I was not working on that. I was not working on my steps. I didn't have a sponsor. I was not holding myself accountable.
Are you doing that stuff now?
I am, yeah. So because I was made to go to meetings, I was kind of kicking and screaming my very first couple ones. But I have a home group now, and I love them. God knew what I needed. Meetings are very scary whenever you first go to them. I do not like sitting there and watching people see what I'm saying. I'm very big into that. I'm very, again, because I'm paranoid all the time. So I'm very big into not really opening up myself. So was a very big thing for me to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you just popped in. Literally, you just popped up. Hi, I'm Abby. I'm here to do. I'm going to do a show. Like, okay.
So I was speaking to you before the show, and I said, my story is different, and I never thought my story was good enough. But I know somebody out there is gonna go and be like, I know this. This is this sounds like my story.
Is that your phone?
Yeah, my alarm's going off. That's my life. I don't even know where my phone is.
I mean, you might as well walk on the camera now. I mean, shit. At this point.
Sorry, y'all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that alarm, right? I appreciate you coming on, right? And like that is the thing. Like your story, it does touch somebody, right? Because like we're not unique, unfortunately, as much as we want to be, right? We're not. And like your story definitely is. It definitely helps someone out there. And at the end of the day, right? Like for everybody listening, I mean, they could have been anywhere in the world today, but they sat here and chose to be with us. So for that, I'm grateful. And I appreciate you guys for watching. Abby, I appreciate you for coming on. If you guys, hopefully you heard something, to help you stay sober one more day. If you didn't hear anything, as always, there's more episodes on the channel. If you don't vibe with any of them, then go to a meeting. Pick up your phone and call somebody and tell them you feel like getting high. Just don't call the dope man. Don't go get a bottle of alcohol. Get sober. If you can do it just one more day, if you can stay sober today, tomorrow looks better. So I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.
Thank you for watching.